Hey everyone, I'm your host Sam, back with another Shades of Jade weekly rundown. Today we'll analyze the party line vote to hold Anthony Fauci in contempt of Congress after he invoked his Fifth Amendment rights over 100 times, and we'll look at what investigators are finding as they download his COVID-era iPhone. We are also diving into Oxford Comma, the declassified secret FBI probe launched in 2017 that exposed a profound deep state conspiracy. We'll cover the standoff with Iran in the Strait of Hormuz, the dramatic August recess betrayal on Capitol Hill over the Save America Act, and a massive $10 million settlement that has forced Texas Children's Hospital to shut down youth transgender surgeries and open a detransition clinic. Finally, we'll track the invasion of to Spain and a heavily armed assassination plot foiled at Trump's golf course in California. Let's dive in. We begin with a little recap. Dr. Anthony Fauci appeared before the Senate Homeland Security Committee and did something unprecedented. Despite testifying over 200 times in his long career, the retired NIAID director invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination 111 times. Committee Chairman Senator Rand Paul argued that a sweeping federal pardon issued by President Biden in January 2025 eliminated any valid Fifth Amendment claim regarding federal prosecution, and that a congressional subpoena is not optional. In a decisive 8-5 party line vote, the Senate Homeland Security Committee voted to hold Dr. Fauci in contempt of Congress, immediately referring the matter to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. It's important to note that a federal pardon does not protect Fauci from the states, and 3 states, Florida, West Virginia, and Louisiana, have launched major state-level investigations. Other states, such as Alabama, have announced or joined broader investigations or reviews into Fauci's pandemic-related actions. Florida Attorney General James Othmeyer has officially subpoenaed Fauci, probing deceptive trade, fraud, and public nuisance. Othmeyer and Senator Josh Hawley revealed that Fauci is being investigated for personally profiting from his office, violating federal laws that prohibit employees from using staff or resources to solicit lucrative cash prizes. Fauci reportedly used his position to secure the $1 million Dan David Prize and major book deals, all while ordering Florida and other states to shut down their economies and schools. The evidence is mounting. Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. successfully located and transferred Dr. Fauci's NIAID-era iPhone backup to the Senate investigating panel, and Senator Ron Johnson has already dispatched these phone records to the Florida Attorney General to aid in potential state-level prosecution. Furthermore, Secretary Kennedy announced a permanent ban on federal scientists obtaining grants if they engage in dangerous gain-of-function research. This comes alongside a massive enforcement action decertifying Kentucky's organ procurement organization, Network for Hope, an organization that also served neighboring states. Federal reviewers found that the organization repeatedly ignored signs of life in nearly 30% of the cases examined, pushing to harvest organs from living patients. Turning to global security, we witnessed a high-stakes game of geopolitical poker in the Middle East. Early in the week, President Trump announced that the United States military was locked and loaded and ready to go against Iran, planning strikes at levels not seen since World War II. However, the president chose to pause the military operations at the last minute. Trump explained that he held off on the strikes after direct requests from Iran and key Middle Eastern allies, including Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the UAE, and Qatar. The pause was granted to give a 60-day interim denuclearization agreement a final chance. The proposed deal, negotiated through Omani and Qatari mediators, would establish a temporary shipping route. Inbound commercial vessels would enter the Persian Gulf via Iranian territorial waters, and outbound vessels would exit via Omani waters, with all naval mines cleared within 30 days. However, the Iranian regime remains unbelievably duplicitous. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Esmail Bagay publicly rejected Trump's account, denying any direct negotiations with the United States were taking place. While Iran claimed negotiations were strictly bilateral with Oman, Trump warned that the strait must be fully opened with zero tolls or fees, striking back against Iran's demands for a 5 to 7% cargo tax, or they will get hit very hard. Meanwhile, U.S. forces are strictly enforcing a total naval blockade. As of early August, CENTCOM has redirected 45 commercial vessels, disabled 2, and boarded 2. The tension remains extreme. Tasnim media claimed Iranian forces shot down a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone, and a cargo ship was reportedly struck by a projectile off the coast of Oman. To squeeze the mullahs into submission, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced that Iran's shadow banking system is buckling under economic fury. The Treasury successfully dismantled a massive Iranian currency network and seized $130 million in cryptocurrency wallets linked directly to the IRGC. President Trump also turned his fire toward domestic energy giants, accusing Chevron and ExxonMobil of making too much money off the conflict. He demanded they cut retail gas prices and give some of those record-breaking profits back to the American consumer. Switching to news closer to home, on August 5th, the White House Government Transparency Task Force released newly declassified documents that have sent shockwaves through Washington. The files expose a secret 2017 FBI criminal investigation codenamed Oxford Comma, spelled OXFERD instead of with 2 O's. The documents confirm that high-ranking deep state agents, including FBI General Counsel James Baker and Counterintelligence Chief Bill Priestap, conspired to open a secret probe on President Trump, alleging he was a Russian asset for firing James Comey. They launched this operation despite knowing that the Russian collusion theory was completely dead. Lead agent Peter Strzok even texted Lisa Page just 3 days after the probe opened, admitting there was no big there. Yet, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein allowed the operation to go forward, weaponizing the hoax to trigger the Robert Mueller investigation. While weaponized investigations from the deep state were uncovered, the president's physical safety was once again threatened. Police outside Trump National Golf Club in California arrested a heavily armed man who had been camping out to track security activities before the president's visit. The suspect, Janine John Teal, was caught impersonating a State Department security agent. Authorities found him in possession of an illegally modified AR-style rifle, a loaded .45 caliber pistol, body armor, high-capacity magazines, hollow point ammunition, and multiple notebooks containing concerning statements. He currently faces 4 state charges and 1 federal charge in what investigators believe was a direct plot to assassinate the president. Turning to Capitol Hill, we must cover what many patriots are calling a betrayal. Senate Majority Leader John Thune officially forced the Senate into August recess without passing the Save America Act. Thune scheduled nearly a dozen pro forma sessions through mid-September, ensuring that even if the SAVE Act is passed later, it cannot take effect for the crucial 2026 midterms. A group of 11 GOP Senate patriots, including Mike Lee, John Kennedy, Josh Hawley, Rick Scott, and South Carolina's new Senator Darlene Graham, stood up on the Senate floor to formally record their objections to the recess. They demanded the Senate stay and work to mandate voter ID, but their voice vote was ultimately overruled. This delay comes as shocking new evidence of election fraud is uncovered. In Michigan, James O'Keefe discovered that multiple non-U.S. citizens from Iran were actively registered to vote in the 2026 primary elections, listing abandoned buildings as their addresses, and in Philadelphia, Scott Pressler revealed that a cross-reference of the voter rolls showed that 25% of individuals who filed as non-jurors were registered illegal alien voters. In Maricopa County, Arizona, declassified files show that 633,000 voter files were hacked and stolen on the eve of the 2020 election, and the Biden DOJ refused to do anything about it even after the suspect confessed. To protect our nation's sovereignty, President Trump signed historic executive orders to deny birthright citizenship to children born to alien enemies, members of foreign terrorist organizations, or those participating in birth tourism baby mills. Stephen Miller cited Section 215A of the Immigration and Nationality Act as the primary federal statute granting the president this unilateral authority. On the border, June 2026 deportations surged to a historic high of 79,000 orders issued by federal judges, and ICE recorded approximately 46,000 bookends for July. Activist judges like Anna Reyes admitted defeat, greenlighting the termination of temporary protected status for Haitian migrants, while a Massachusetts judge ruled that DHS can terminate temporary protected status for South Sudan migrants. Additionally, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy banned 26,000 commercial drivers from American roads for failing to meet basic English requirements, and the newly confirmed U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche, who passed a tight 50 to 49 Senate floor vote, the largest coordinated denaturalization surge in DOJ history. The filings seek to revoke the citizenship of fraudsters and serious criminals who lied on their naturalization papers. The domestic cleanup continues to yield victories. In Texas, Attorney General Ken Paxton secured a resounding defeat against radical gender ideology. Texas Children's Hospital agreed to a historic settlement after being caught fraudulently billing Medicaid to push minors into gender transition surgeries. Under the terms of the deal, the hospital must permanently ban all gender transition operations, pay $10 million in damages, open a detransition clinic to provide free care by October, and permanently revoke the privileges of the 5 doctors involved. Connecticut Children's Hospital similarly caved to the Department of Justice and terminated all child transgender surgeries, becoming the 3rd hospital to reach such a resolution with federal authorities. As for the war on fraud, a report revealed that 9.2 million adults enrolled in Obamacare's Medicaid expansion did not qualify, representing a 46% fraud rate that has cost taxpayers $33 billion. CMS Administrator Dr. Oz and the Trump administration have already removed 1,076 fraudulent hospice providers in California alone and blocked $42 billion from leaving the Medicaid building in just a few months. USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins revealed that nearly 100% of blue states are hiding SNAP data, despite the federal government finding SNAP recipients driving luxury cars and over 200,000 dead people receiving benefits. And Vice President Vance confirmed $230 billion in fraud has been identified just since the task force was set up. Of course, 0 Democrats attended Vance's anti-fraud meeting. Shifting our focus to Spain, authorities managed the aftermath of a large migrant influx into the North African enclave of Ceuta. Between roughly July 30th and 31st, an estimated 50,000 to 70,000 people, primarily young men, mostly Moroccan, with some from sub-Saharan Africa, crossed into Ceuta by swimming around barriers, using floating devices, scaling fences, or walking across. The surge temporarily more than doubled the enclave's normal population of about 84,000 and strained local resources. Spanish officials cited social media rumors, including about a court ruling on summary returns, as well as trafficking networks. Cooperation with Morocco facilitated rapid returns. By August 2nd, the death toll on the Spanish side stood at least at 72, primarily from drowning and a stampede, with additional bodies recovered. Moroccan figures were lower. Nearly all or the vast majority of those who entered had returned to Morocco within about 48 hours, either voluntarily or under escort. By Sunday, the situation in Ceuta had largely returned to normal, though some individuals remained in surrounding areas, and military and police presence remained elevated. Spanish citizens publicly contested official claims that conditions had fully normalized, citing ongoing presence of individuals near residential areas. The events prompted political tension within Spain and the European Union, including an emergency meeting of interior ministers and temporary Schengen-related measures by Italy. Spanish authorities emphasized continued cooperation with Morocco and efforts to prevent repeats. Now, normally this would be the time I'd move on to the noteworthy tidbits, but I thought I'd try something new moving forward, sharing my thoughts after completing each half of the episode. So, here it is. Fauci is a criminal. He does not care about the deaths he causes, the lives he ruins, or the beagles he tortured. All he cares about is fame and money, as he himself described in his digital diary. His crimes against humanity span back to the late 1980s when he experimented on HIV-positive foster children without informed consent. Anthony Fauci deserves to be punished for his crimes, but I expect he'll receive only a slap on the wrist at best. His ego has been bruised already, which is a huge blow to somebody so obsessed with themselves, so I guess there's that. Next thought, everyone is sick of the Iran bullshit. End it already. Trump's back and forth with Iran is tanking his second term. He's lost sight of the promises he made to the American people. And yes, we're all happy that Iran can't use a nuclear weapon against us now. And I understand the president doesn't want innocent lives to be lost in Iran, but it's time to wrap this up. While we play these games with Iran, our soldiers' lives are at risk, and we move further and further away from the goal of making America great again. My thoughts on the children's hospitals performing transgender surgeries: it's a crime. I have nothing against an adult wanting that procedure done, and I'll gladly respect their preferred pronouns so long as my tax money doesn't go towards it. But operation on children who are not mature enough to properly consent is a crime, and their parents need to be treated for a mental illness. As for the anti-fraud meetings, I think it speaks volumes that 0 Democrats showed up to them. It really can't be any more obvious that they don't give a damn about the people they represent as long as their voters continue to vote blue no matter who. Now it's time for the noteworthy tidbits, which are brought to you today by Old Glory, so let me tell you about them quick. Are you looking for a gift for a music lover, or maybe some apparel to show off your quirky side? Old Glory has you covered. With over 300,000 officially licensed items covering music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture, you're guaranteed to find the perfect item. They even have seasonal gear. My husband enjoys the Led Zeppelin and Beatles apparel, and I love the Billy Idol apparel. I even found some items for my fellow plant enthusiasts. This family-owned superstore is known for their quality and customer service, offers free standard shipping on all orders, and orders are shipped the same day you purchase. My discount code gives you 15% off your entire order, and it's currently the best deal available. Just visit oldglory.com and enter in my promo code JADE, that's J-A-D-E, at checkout. All right, let's get back to the tidbits. President Trump has slashed 280,000 federal jobs since he took office, yet the government is operating more efficiently than 4 years of Biden. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirmed the Trump administration carried out foreign exchange actions with the Japanese yen to help stabilize Japan's currency. Senators Rick Scott and Mike Lee are moving to abolish the Senate's 3-day work week, requiring senators to work 5 days a week like every other hardworking American. President Trump approved $24.5 million for Missouri flood recovery. The statue of Baron Friedrich Wilhelm von Steuben in Lafayette Park has been cleaned and waxed by the National Park Service. Florida Attorney General James Othmeyer moved to have Judge Nancy Abudu impeached after she served as a director in the Southern Poverty Law Center's litigation, and a federal judge rejected the SPLC's motion to dismiss the Department of Justice's criminal indictment after the NGO was caught financing the KKK and white supremacists. President Trump signed an executive order creating a direct line with military families for child care, employment, housing, and health care. It's called the Presidential Military Spouse Commission, and it's chaired by War Secretary Pete Hegseth's wife, Jennifer. The Dow Jones blew past 54,200. Secretary of State Marco Rubio signed a nuclear memorandum with the country of Paraguay. President Trump welcomed the Penn State 2026 NCAA Wrestling National Champions and the Team USA Winter Olympics and Paralympic athletes to the White House on separate occasions. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon caught OpenAI discriminating against American workers in favor of foreign labor, obtaining a $3.2 million settlement. President Trump endorsed Stacey Garrity for governor of Pennsylvania. Garrity is the current Pennsylvania state treasurer. The 11th Circuit Court of Appeals upheld Florida's law that bans children from sexually explicit drag shows and other adult live performances. Secretary Bessent swore in Jay Clayton as the new Director of National Intelligence. President Trump demanded the U.S. Senate pass the Sunshine Protection Act to abolish seasonal time changes, maintaining permanent daylight savings time. A man convicted for murdering his father was arrested for allegedly starting the Spokane, Washington fires. President Trump and Secretary Rubio revoked the visa from Brazilian ambassador to the United States after Brazil blocked Trump's ambassador nominee, Daniel Perez. The U.S. Senate advanced and confirmed Erica Schwartz as CDC director, and it also advanced and confirmed 74 nominees in block, including 4 U.S. attorneys, 4 U.S. marshals, FEMA, TSA, and others. A report found that Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El-Sayed's campaign is supported by $115,000 of terrorism-linked funds. Senator Mitch McConnell was discharged from the rehabilitation center and is recovering at home after being hospitalized nearly 2 months ago. Many have pointed out that no video evidence confirming McConnell's well-being has been provided. Third Way, a center-left group, is spending $15 million to fight against democratic socialism. The National Guard will remain in Washington, D.C. to address crime through the rest of President Trump's term in January 2029. Since arriving about a year ago, homicides have decreased by 32% and car theft has decreased by 53%. Secretary Rubio sanctioned 5 Cuban entities and 8 individuals who helped the Cuban communist regime obtain arms, and the CIA has reportedly set up a Cuba task force as President Trump and Rubio pressure the communist regime. The U.S. Senate passed Russia sanctions legislation, which also targets Iran, authorizing President Trump to place 100% tariffs on importers of Russian oil. Supreme Justice Samuel Alito announced he's not retiring and will stay on for another term. New York City Mayor Mamdani was sued by a group of homeowners after he published a list of names related to his new Tax the Rich policy on secondary homes. Representative Corey Mills was caught lying to President Trump about the restraining order from his ex-girlfriend. The restraining order is indeed real. Spencer Pratt met with President Trump to pass a 25% federal film tax credit to bring back Hollywood. War Secretary Pete Hegseth revoked former Secretary of the Air Force Frank Kendall's access to classified intel after he leaked classified information surrounding Air Force One's capabilities to the news. New photographs showing cuts and expansion joints at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, consistent with earlier descriptions of vandalism, were released, prompting calls to revisit related charging decisions. Attorney General Todd Blanche pointed out that President Trump has the authority to fire U.S. Attorney for D.C. Janine Pirro if he wants to, but Pirro is excelling at her job despite the disagreement on the reflecting pool vandalism. At 4 a.m., the U.S. Senate passed the CR funding resolution to avoid a government shutdown during the 2026 midterms. The CR will now go to the House before President Trump's desk. China placed sanctions on U.S. companies ahead of President Xi Jinping's visit with President Trump in September. Despite legal challenges from activist judges trying to stop construction on the White House ballroom and military complex, President Trump has appealed to the Supreme Court. He has designated the 90,000 square foot structure a vital military asset, complete with an underground bunker and an elevated drone port to safeguard the Capitol from modern aerial threats. President Trump's Freedom 250 4th of July fireworks display has officially been crowned as the Guinness World Record largest firework display, with 840,537 fireworks set off over the National Mall. I don't have any thoughts to share for the second half of this episode, so that wraps up our recap of August 2nd through August 8th. Which development stood out the most to you? Comment below, subscribe for next week's update, and don't forget to share this rundown with a friend. Thank you for listening and have a great day.